today?
Good. How are you doing today?
Good, good. Today we are talking about something that's actually very, very serious, and that's to do with depression.
Yeah.
Theory of hopelessness, theory of helplessness, and the theory of depression. Yeah. And of course, welcome to podcast therapy.
Yeah.
We haven't been here for a while, but we are back at it, talking about something that happened politically, which is unusual for us.
Yeah.
We have been talking about interpersonal violence. And this really goes along with what research we've been doing to do with violence. And now we did move on to grief, and now we're moving on to depression. Yeah. And what are your thoughts, Emerald? Because everybody's talking about it.
Well, first of all, I think that it's a super horrible and sad thing to have happened. And I think that it's caused a lot of people to be sad and kind of depressed at the way that things are right now in terms of violence and how often it occurs just like randomly.
Yeah, for sure. There's something about random acts of violence that just really unearths the well-being of society as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's absolutely a security in knowing that you can trust in, maybe not fully trust a person, but trust generally that nothing crazy is going to happen. Everyone has agreed that we're abiding by the same rules and everything. And then, when somebody goes out of line like that, it's like, well, wait a second. That's a security that I guess never even existed. Because, some people, I guess, don't abide by those rules sometimes.
Exactly. And when these random acts of violence occur, we actually really don't have any societal safety any longer. And so, and it's hard to wrap our minds around it because we do naturally feel like there is some sort of safety net. Right? That we are safe when it is that we leave our house, that we know, generally speaking, 9 times out of 10, we're going to be walking right back in again. Our day is going to play out relatively normally, repetitively, that sort of thing. And every once in a while, when these things happen to hit the media, and they become really, really big, really, really fast because it's so shocking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that when you say shocking, it really is like a shockwave that goes through. And then you can kind of see the ripple effect of especially online, seeing the video or seeing what happens and then the response and then the continuous creation of content in regards to that subject and then just the continuous reactions to that.
Yeah. So will you tell us about your experience of it? Because number one, this is not my, generally speaking, age group. This is more your age group that's really been affected by this. And because also too, it's a social media kind of highlight, right? And you're on social media. So walk us through what your experience of it was.
Yeah, and from those perspectives that you're saying, my age group, I'm also coming from kind of the comedy creator standpoint because politics has always been basically hand in hand with comedy, and parodies and stuff like that, and also closely entwined with, freedom of speech, and that's a huge political, topic and everything like that. So from my perspective, it has been this growing and building concern because I think that, with comedy and with politics, that's that huge part about conservatives and liberals and sort of going to the extreme because comedy is about making fun of the extreme, but you kind of start to see in everyday life more and more of the extremes that normally you would kind of maybe make fun of, but now it's something that you sort of have to be very careful about offending anyone about. And I think it's kind of been sort of this very interesting compiling of trying to make it work, trying to be as nice as possible, but also upholding those freedom of speech kind of values, right? And being able to say or make fun of or do whatever, you want to within reason. But now it really seems like, it's gone to the extremes on kind of both sides of like what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say and how you're allowed and not allowed to defend yourself and against what. So I guess for me, just like watching it, it's been really interesting sort of seeing like that comedy side, but also like the feminist side. And then just like how, I don't know, all kinds of groups are sort of fighting against each other in terms of, how to like be the outspoken and, just group. But also it just seems to be so much disagreement and like just the parallels seem to be so opposite ends of the other that when, you take a step back off of social media, it's kind of like, well, how does all of that apply to the average working person?
Yeah.
Who like does the 9 to 5? Like me, like maybe I am super into social media and I know a little bit more about it than you do, but generally I'm not a political person either. So like even you can hear in the way I'm speaking, I'm like so far away from it, I'm like with binoculars trying to describe it to you. But it's like, yeah, it's just very like interesting in that way. I think that my age group is very afraid of talking about politics in general because it is such an inflammatory subject.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So we're talking about Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk.
We're talking about Charlie Kirk. That is actually really part of our topic today because it's something that has been such a big thing that has hit everyone, I guess, kind of hard, right? Now, my understanding of Charlie Kirk is that he was a debater.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like he would go to universities and that's where this like terrible tragedy happened. He was at a university having a debate. He just sits there with a microphone and people can come up and they have a microphone provided to them. They can provide topics or he has a topic for them. And it's not just something that he does, other people do it too. Another person, Steven Crowder, is a very popular person that does that. And he kind of started it, and then I guess Charlie Kirk was doing it, and then he was attacked like that.
Wow. Interesting, eh? You got to be a pretty smart cookie to be able to do that. Like well-read, well-researched.
Absolutely. Like when you watch these videos, it's not just them like, yelling their point. It really is. It's like they have pamphlets beside them of all the information to back up their points and stuff like that. And it does like a lot of it is very interesting conversations, especially when the other person comes up and they also have a plethora of information and statistics and things like that. And, it's to the average person or somebody that's not in. That's so surprising how much somebody is invested into those things.
Yeah. And he was actually also too a family man.
Yeah, he had a wife and 2 young children.
And religious as well.
Yeah, I believe he was Christian.
Yeah. So all of those things coming together, and apparently he really was quite charismatic and had a huge following.
Yeah, a very huge following. I think that too, like a lot of people kind of saw, what he was trying to do, which was approach this topic, and maybe some of his views were kind of more on the extreme side, but be as respectful about it as possible. And I think that's what's so important about that is like allowing that other side to be able to voice where they're coming from in that opinion and having a conversation about, what it's like to see those kind of 2, different viewpoints come together and just have a conversation about their different lifestyles and way of living.
And I think too, he was a role model, most probably for other men who were really wanting to aspire to living a good life, having a family, having someone that they could look up to show them the way of how to be important, significant, family men, driven, right? All that kind of stuff, educated, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I think like unthreatened, you know, like you can live that way and be outspoken in that way and be proud, you know, and not feel, I don't know, like you have to shut yourself down, I guess, but also in a respectful way to everyone else.
Yeah, interesting, eh?
Yeah.
And so, you know, with that, what we're talking about actually really having a lot of hope for society and for new ways of living and looking at things, as well as, well, being able to help yourself, I guess, basically, right? Like, to learn the information, to live life based upon how it is that you want to do so. And apparently, like, he had a huge young following, especially in regards to politics.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's the other side, which is with his death, his assassination, also too by another young male.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, you know, goes into the theory of all of a sudden that transition happens to hopelessness, helplessness, as well as the hopelessness of depression. When you build somebody up and then all of a sudden in one fell swoop they're just torn right down.
Yeah, well, that, and what's really interesting is seeing the reaction of a lot of people saying, like, you know, he was the next Hitler and like he's a Nazi and like it was a good thing that happened. And then, you know, a day after, like seeing them post and being like, I was fired from my job because of what I said.
Wow.
You know, about that. And it's, you know, it's just a very interesting shock. Yeah, shocking. Just shocking about like what happened and the reaction to it. It's just, I can't imagine, I don't know, saying anything.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's like people all of a sudden choose sides, right? They feel the need to. It's not like as if they're asked to, but the truth of the matter is, all of a sudden we go into good or bad, right? And so good or evil, like it, very significantly, all of a sudden that polarization comes forward.
Yeah, them or us.
Exactly. Yeah. And so just really interesting, right? It's like, you know, when you think about it, immediately you go to a place of, wow, like I am sorry for that. Like that's to cut somebody's life off, I guess, no matter who it is, right? Who has worked so hard to help people and then have that happen on the one hand, to the other side, which is, of course, here's our little sign, not sorry, right? Because they're attributing the information from that extreme side into a very negative place. And then all of a sudden, the support for the person who did it starts to come out. Yeah. And so, and then it becomes very hard. Like, how do you actually really know which way to land? Right? But I think really, you know, when it is that we're talking about someone's early demise, no matter how it is that has happened, that actually really is very sad. Yeah. And a lot of people have been very shocked by it. And don't really know exactly where to go with it. And as you said, like all of a sudden things changed media-wise because whatever the media coverage was actually really stopped. Yeah,
it was very strange. It was like, I don't know, like the day that it happened, it was, I don't know, it was so weird. It was like, because I know somebody who's kind of more political than me, they sent me the video. But if they didn't send it to me, I don't think I would have seen it because I didn't see anything in my, you know, feed that my algorithm sends me. So that's the only reason why I even, maybe not the only reason why I knew about it, but like other than that, I wouldn't have been aware, I don't think.
Yeah, me as well, right? Like somebody brought it to me saying it was like very shocking and that, you know, they were a follower of him. Right? And so didn't really care so much about how it is that I land politically, but that this is something significant that had affected them because, you know, they really held him in high esteem for what it is that he was able to do, which is, you know, to be available to people to go from university to university and debate.
Yeah.
Which is like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
yeah, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so when we're talking about this, what's really, really interesting is that there's a lot of different components to it, right? Because how does that end up in a place of societal helplessness, hopelessness, and does that lead to a place of depression as well, societal depression? And so what we're looking at today is we're looking at these different theories. Yeah. So when we're talking about hopelessness, way back in the day, Abramson, who back, you know, in like 1989, came up with this idea of different components that actually really lead to helplessness.
Right.
And then there's also Seligman, who actually came up with a theory to do with helplessness, and that was back in the 1960s as well.
Learned helplessness.
Learned helplessness, and how it is that that comes and does that actually really add up to depression.
And a really great, I guess, image of learned helplessness that I guess was his experiment was like he had a puppy and he had a floor that it was staying on in a box kind of thing, and half of it was like would send electric shocks that would make it very uncomfortable, and the puppy could see the other side, which didn't have that floor, and he would keep kind of a wall between them, and every time the puppy would try to go over, it wouldn't be able to. And then eventually he just like lifted the wall so the puppy could see the other side, but it had learned that no matter what it did, it wouldn't be able to achieve the comfortable side, so it just stayed in the uncomfortable side receiving the electric shocks.
Yeah.
So
in essence, became depressed.
Yeah.
Right? You know, sad, low mood, passivity.
Yeah, this sucks.
Right? Exactly. Lack of motivation, right? There's nothing that I can do. I can't help myself, so I give up.
Yeah.
Right? Reduced effort. Right? That they can't possibly make a difference.
Yeah.
As well as pessimistic expectations.
Yeah, I would assume it would also kind of give you more of an external locus of control. Like you feel like you can't control what happens to you. You don't have any agency. It's just like what the world throws at you, you have to deal with.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. And of course that just leads to some real key elements, right? Which is to do with uncontrollability, right? You can't control it. They can't influence, people perceive that they can't influence the outcome.
Yeah, you have no power.
No power whatsoever, exactly. And then attribution is another one, which is blaming yourself, right? Which are I statements, negative cognizance. It's because of me that this has happened, right? I can't make a difference, right? That sort of thing. And then the next one is generalization, to generalize that to all areas, right? Yeah. I think that what's really interesting in it is that when you look at people who are suicidal, right, we have a tendency to feel that sense of hopelessness, that there's nothing that they can actually really do. They're in so much pain that the answer is really to leave, right? Which is basically what suicide is leaving, right? And so
So you have to say unaliving yourself.
Unaliving?
Yeah, we can't say the S word on YouTube.
You can't say the S word on YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, you can't say suicidal ideation or anything like that?
No.
No. Oh, wow. Okay, well then just cut that out.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. So there's 3 different components, which I think is really interesting for us to start to think about, right? In regards to learned helplessness, hopelessness, and whether or not that takes us to a place of depression. And one is to do with exactly what you brought up, external versus internal perspectives, right? So when we internalize something, what we do is we take it in on ourselves and we use I statements, which are called negative cognitions. I can't get what I want is one, right? I'm stupid. I can't measure up, whatever that might be. What's happening is, whatever it is that stressor is, we are using self-blame to blame ourselves for whatever it is that's gone wrong.
Right.
Whereas external perspectives is that something outside of ourselves has actually really contributed to where it is that we have ended up, right? Now, it's interesting, right? Because there's always a balancing act with these things.
Right.
And so, there's always a combination of things that really come to play. And so there's the external situation, something is happening in society that has created a sense of change, as well as the fact that wherever it is that I am sitting with that. So there's always the two components. So sometimes it is true, right? There are external things that happen that actually really have huge impact on us. How it is that things are organized actually really can create us not doing well, right? And so, for example, when it is that there's an exam and the exam is really, really hard, right? Now, when it is that you say, I failed the exam. If you failed, the truth is that's a match. Like, I failed, right? That exam was hard. I didn't actually really study enough, which is actually really, true. So it's important to look at the reality of the circumstances in order to create that balance. If you're so busy blaming others, they should have made it easier, they shouldn't have made me go through that sort of thing, then I'm not taking responsibility for the fact that I knew that I had to write that exam, and I knew that exam, chances are, was going to be really, really hard, and that I really needed to study, right? But when it is that I change that and I start saying, I'm a failure, then what I'm doing is I am globalizing that. I'm taking it from, I didn't do a good job on that, to I'm stupid at everything it is that I do. So when we globalize stuff, when we make it really, really big and we incorporate all kinds of things into it, that's one way of doing things, right? That's one perspective. Another one is making it specific. So when I look at something specifically, I'm just talking about that exam, right? So when it is that I do that, I'm not minimizing it, but I'm actually really taking it to that one thing. So when I globalize it, I'm making it incorporate everything. And when it is that I do that, then all of a sudden we're increasing that sense of hopelessness, right? I'm making it all about me. There's something wrong with me. And now I'm globalizing it to everything that I do. I can't measure up. As opposed to having the reality that, that exam is hard for a reason, right? And it's just really to do with that exam. And therefore, I know that in order to write that exam again, I've got to study a lot more. Right? So I'm making it very, very specific. I'm keeping my I statements to real statements, but I'm also incorporating the fact that there's some external there, but it's not all to do with the external. Whereas when it is I'm globalizing it, I'm saying I'm making it really big. I can't accomplish anything, and everyone is out there trying to get me. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so then the third component is to do with the stability, right? Is this actually really to do with ongoing and every single thing? Right? If it's stable and it's happening with every single exam I write, right? then all of a sudden I've taken it into a helplessness, a hopelessness, that there's no way for me to be able to overcome it.
Right.
Right? But if it's specific and it's really just to do with this exam, because the truth of the matter is, I've actually passed other exams,
Right.
right? Then it's actually really not stable, right? And so when we bring those three different components together, we're actually either going to be going into helplessness, hopelessness, depression,
Right.
or we're taking it into a place where it is that we actually really can manage in certain aspects in order to be able to overcome. We're not taking it all on ourselves, and we're not blaming it all on the external, but we're incorporating both together with the realization that this might have done me in, but the truth of the matter is, other things I've been able to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think what's really important about that is stopping and recognizing the pattern and the perspective and those elements, and then taking action. So what you said about like actually studying for the exam and taking accountability and responsibility for that. So like really, cutting it down to, okay, so what is within my control and what can I do to either be helpful or to at least make myself feel like I'm doing something purposeful.
Exactly. So that's really what's so important about, I think anyway, situations where it is that it's unique to us, or it's becomes even bigger, which it's to do with society. The truth is, we've got to take a look at those three components in order to be able to make sure that we're looking at it in a very good and open way with our perspectives. Because if it is that we're blaming ourselves, I should have been there, I should have done something. But you got to take a look at that, right? Because I should have been there. Well, where was that? It was in the States somewhere.
I think it was Utah.
It was Utah, right? So I couldn't have been there.
No.
And I should have done something. Well, I wasn't there. And so therefore, there really wasn't anything I could do, right? So it's really important to take a look at that, right? So then we turn it to the external, right? So to do with they should have done something, right? Well, who could anticipate random acts of violence?
Yeah.
Right? Or, the political arena caused this, right? Well, the truth of the matter is that everybody does have choices, and these things do unfortunately happen. But nobody can anticipate when it is something's going to go this way. Right? There isn't anything that you can put in place in order to be able to make sure that everyone's safe 100% of the time, no matter how it is or where it is that they are. It's impossible. And then, of course, we turn it into global, right? Are we actually going to say, this is what it is that's happening all over the place? Well, the truth is, there are things that are happening, but there's 2 million more things happening a day than it is that someone is in jeopardy like this, right? Like people are out and about in social media doing things one-on-one all over the world all the time. So this isn't actually really something that is, permeating and completely destroying. It's random, right? And so in that, it is specific, right? Because it was targeted. And so that's really important to pay attention to. It's specific to this arena in which this is happening, right? And is it stable? Well, it's not happening all of the time, every day, right? It's just not. It is actually really random. It's not stable, right? So it is important just to be able to pull those different components apart for yourself in order to be able to pull yourself out of that learned helplessness, the hopelessness, so that it doesn't go into that sense of depression.
Mm-hmm.
We do have choices, we do have options, right? We do have ways in which to keep ourselves safe. And the truth of the matter is that it's, something that is just really big.
Yeah, it is really big.
Yeah, really big. Yeah, it's kind of funny because my mind is going to that other bus incident that you were telling me about that happened.
Well, and what's really interesting is that point you left off on, what was it? Continuous or...
Oh, stable?
Stable. That's what people are kind of really starting to worry about, is that it's turning into something that's stable, because they're connecting what happened to Charlie Kirk with what happened on the subway with that woman that was slashed by that man.
Mm-hmm.
And then also there was an incident, and again, I'm not fully into it, so I don't know everything, but there's a huge horde of men walking down the street in New York. There was one lone woman that was trying to get home, and there was one cop that was trying to help her get there, and she was being kicked and spit on and having trash cans thrown at her, and
wow.
grape threats thrown at her, and there was police everywhere, but only one police officer was there, also being knocked around and stuff like that. And the concern is that really actually no arrests had been made over that incident.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
it is really, really hard. With random acts, it's you want to attribute it to it being stable.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that, it's not that often that people, when it is they get together, actually create a mob.
Right, yeah.
Right, with a mob mentality where anything goes.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it does happen. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. It definitely does. But it's not after every single baseball game. It's not after every single hockey game. Every once in a while, you're right, it does actually really occur. Right? So it's not stable.
Mm-mm.
It is random. I'm sure there's components that come together to create that kind of mass reaction, right? That people feel that anything can go, they can get away with anything.
Right.
I mean, there's all these contributing factors. So there's all these things that occur. It is random. We have great media coverage now, and so it feels like it's ever increasing. And the truth is there's a lot more people, and so yes, of course there's a lot of things that are going on.
Mm-hmm.
And they're being covered.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, and that's what's really, really important, to use your discretion and your discernment when receiving all of this media, because the more that you look at it, the more the algorithm will feed it to you. And, it's a really big world out there. So, walk around, go outside without your phone and just look at your neighbors and see that, your community isn't going to do something like that, right? And you kind of discern that a lot of the violence that you're getting is really intense things from a country over, or a province over, or state to state. It's a really big thing that happens maybe every once in a while, but because there's so much coverage, we're getting all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to see all of it, and you have no idea of the timelines either. You might receive 20 videos of violence, but it's been through the course of maybe the past 15 or 20 years.
It's so true. Yeah, exactly. Well, so it comes down to a few things that we have to really pay attention to for ourselves, so that it doesn't go into that place of learned helplessness, hopelessness, and therefore depression, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to focus on what it is that you can control, right? And it's important to be able to recognize that. There are some things that we can't control for sure, right? And so it's important to be able to then keep yourself safe, in essence, based upon that.
Right.
So what is it that I can control? What is it that I cannot control? And of course, you know, the wisdom to know the difference, the serenity prayer.
Yeah.
Right? So that's really, really important. So joining groups and having a support system and that sort of thing is really important, right? Having good friends that you can talk to about how it is that you're feeling about things, right? That actually really then perhaps can question you on your perspective to kind of like bring you out into looking at things a little bit differently, can actually really be quite helpful. Narratives of resilience is actually really a good thing too. You know, because if you're always listening to the dire stories, the bad stuff that's happening, right, it can actually really make it feel like it's really, really big and encompassing and dark. Right? But there are positive stories out there.
Yeah.
You know, so it's important to be able to connect with things that are fun and light and encouraging and successes to keep you driving forward and making your own successes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And mental health support.
Yeah.
Here we are, podcast therapy, right? And mental health support, right? Having someone to talk to about things, figure out things with you, just to listen, to witness what it is that you're going through can be quite helpful.
Yeah.
Right? Just to be able to know that, yeah, bad things happen to good people. There was actually a book written on that. And the truth is, you can be as good as you possibly can be, but life still happens. Right? Like you can be the best Christian you could possibly be, but the truth of the matter is you're also human. And so, you know, human things are going to happen to you. We're not divine, right? You know, if we were, this would be a very different world.
Yeah, right.
You know, interesting about restoring trust and transparency in institutions. I think, you know, just like I was talking about with the exam thing, institutions function in a certain way. Society functions in a certain way. And it's important to recognize how society functions and how institutions function. And because they are organized in a certain way, it's important to recognize what it is that you're dealing with and not feel like you're being betrayed or separated out or that you're a bad person or anything like that. You know, it's funny, like when you're pulled over, if you've been speeding by a police officer, first thing that goes through your head is, why aren't you out getting the bad guys?
Yeah,
like,
right.
I'm not a bad guy, right? I was just going a little faster. But the truth of the matter is that, you know, the police force is set up a certain way, right? To keep people safe, and speeding actually really causes accidents. And they really do want you to be aware of that. It's a learning opportunity. It's just a reminder, right? That yes, of course, has a cost to it. But that's what it is that they're actually paid to do, is to keep the public safe. And that's a hard prospect. And it's the same with the government. And I know a lot of people right now are having trouble with the government and how the government functions and all that kind of stuff. But I just, you know, I can't imagine having to try and keep millions upon millions of people happy.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Like near impossible. And the rules, the laws have been set in order to try to keep the majority happy, right? You know, and I think about the old adage, that ethical question, you know, about, you know, what if somebody steals something, right? And it's like there's laws against it. There's the biblical law, thou shalt not steal. And so then the question comes in, but what if the person is starving? What if their family is starving and they're stealing a grape or they're stealing an apple, right? So there's always those ethical questions that come up, right? What about this? But it's important to recognize the law was set up for the masses, for the majority, to keep people safe. There's always incidences where it is, unfortunately, people can get caught, right? But it is really good just to be able to recognize that, as hard as it is, and it's very, very hard, just to remind yourself, right, that that's what it is the system is trying to do, right? And so that transparency and just restoring trust can be hard, but it is good just to recognize the trying to have the best intentions to keep people safe.
Right. Overall, just, looking back at this discussion, condolences to Charlie Kirk's family.
Yeah, for sure. And anyone that was a follower, anyone that cared for him, I think that it's a terrible blow to the things that he upheld. So I think that it is important to really, be in a place of caring for the loss, because there's been a huge loss. And I think, people have the right to stand in judgment. You can judge all it is that you want, but it's also important to be able to have empathy for the person that he was.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, too, I think it's important just to take a look at those key concepts that we were talking about today, just so that you can really start to think about, in the things that you're coming across, whatever difficulties they are, how much is it that you're internalizing, how much is it that you're externalizing, right? And just to be able to then question yourself, is it truly global what you're experiencing? Is it actually really perhaps more specific? Is it really stable, right? Or is it actually really just, different things that are occurring? And I think that that's really important to be able to ask yourself, so that you can take what it is that you're experiencing and pull yourself out from it. The goal is to keep your hope alive. Right? That there are options, there's opportunities, there's different things that are going to come down the pike for you, right? And that you're not helpless. You do actually really have choices. They might not be the ones that you're wanting, but you do actually really have choices and options and opportunity. Right? Because there's a plethora of opportunities out there. You might feel like, they're not the ones that I'm wanting, but that's okay. Sometimes what I say is doing something is way better than doing nothing, right? It's important to have experiences, to be able to learn from them, to then grow from them. And maybe they're not the experiences that you're really wanting, or the options or the choices that you would make if you had everything at your disposal. But none of us really, do have that all the time. We have to be able to, deal with what it is that we've got.
Yeah, absolutely.
And grow from that. You don't have to have $1 million to make a start. I mean, you can make a start with $1.99. Oh dear. But anyway, thank you, Emerald, for coming along and helping me today with this conversation.
Yeah, and thank you, Dr. Lori, and thank you. If you could give us a like, a subscribe, comment down below what your thoughts are on this subject, and maybe turn on the bell icon in case you'd like to be notified about another video we're doing.
That sounds great.
Yeah. But thanks so much, and we'll see you in the next one.
Excellent. All right. Bye for now.
Bye.